And that was a great tool that I know I would run many times um, a while back. It does require that you have the Windows disk, or if you copy the i386 folder to somewhere on your hard drive, right? If you had HP.
Yes. Now the benefit, yeah, and usually that's there. If not, and at this case, it's usually in my office, or if it's not, I'll tell them to pop it in if it's remotely. But I'm sure they can find one. But that's worked, and I've been happy because my next step was a reinstall,
Yeah.
which sometimes is faster, sometimes it's not. In this case, it wasn't because this person, when we install a new computer, it takes 8 hours with all the programs they have to install.
I will also tell you the last year, not because of spyware, but I've had where I get a call from a client say I can't get online, and then you walk them through an IP config, and you see the what's the first line when you do an IP config? The
The top line is like the name, Windows TCP/IP configuration or
yes,
something.
and that's all you see, and it's blank.
Yeah.
And then, and for a while, it kind of boggled us until we found out if you just uninstall the NIC card in Device Manager and reinstall it, now you can pull an IP address. Then we updated the NIC driver, and you're good to go. But that's quite odd. And we run Semantic Enterprise SEP, and I found an article saying it could be possible of an older driver with the shim and all the other stuff. But yeah, but updating the NIC got the IP address back, and those workstations were good to go.
Hmm. Yeah, some of these network card problems can be strange. I had one at this a server. This is this was Monday morning. This is what I walked into Monday morning. Client called me telling me that no one can access a server. Well, the short of it is something was conflicting. Somebody brought some device in, plugged it in, and it was conflicting with the server's IP address. So we found that device. We took care of that device, but the server still couldn't get on. You reboot the server. You're thinking, okay, that device is off, so it's not going to conflict anymore. Reboot the server, same thing, no connection. And I've found these two, but it happened twice. It happened this Monday. It happened a few months back where this person did this. Disable the NIC card, re-enable it, and sometimes, and see in the chat they said that the network card was enabled, but even though the network card had a static IP because it's a server, the status of it said acquiring IP address. So you can disable it, re-enable it, and then it started working
And it's
because
funny
it
that
wasn't
his yeah, I'm
because it
sorry.
wasn't seen. Even though the device wasn't there, it was still saying nope, conflict. Because even though the device was off, it was still popping up IP address conflict with the MAC address for the device that we turned off.
And it's funny that you say that because when you do the repair, one of the actions that it takes, it disables and enables the NIC.
Yep, yep.
Mhm.
And of course, this time they had to tell the user stop plugging things into the network,
Yeah.
which you would have thought they learned the first time, but
Is
eh,
it is it after you took that quarter off the power button?
that's that's different people. But they had an incident this week too, though, which was kind of funny.
Okay.
Um, I won't talk about that, but that was funny.
Okay.
Um, oh, wait, no, this is was on those. But I'm gonna cover this real quick too. Another workaround that I had to fix this weekend. Oh, no, not weekend. Yeah, right. Um, Friday.
Okay.
Um, this one user connects to one of their client's office with a VPN. Now, it's a software VPN, which I don't really like. And this has been working for a long time, but she's never needed to print.
All right. Before you do carry on, for the people are going, what the hell is he talking about? What's the difference between a VPN that is established by an appliance and one that's software driven?
Okay, so with the appliance, it's a site-to-site VPN, meaning her network and the target network are linked through the routers. So there's nothing that the client at her computer would have to do to initiate the connection. It's already done. With the software client, she has to run a software client, hit connect, and it's supposed to form a tunnel between her computer and the destination server.
Cool.
Now, what happened was this client was on 1.x network. So her IP address, let's say, was 192.168.1 dot something.
Okay.
When she connected to the VPN through the Cisco software client, of course, you get another network, a virtual network card, and that IP address was 192.168.2 dot something. Okay, so that's fine, different network.
Sure.
So after that VPN is connected, she connects to a terminal server, and she connects to it by name. So
Hey, Matt.
I go take. She's on the phone with their tech support because their company has their own IT support, and they work on it for hours. Well, she calls me, so I stop by and look at it. When I'm on the terminal server session, the printers are IP-based printers. I try and ping the IP address of the printer from the terminal server. No response. I try and ping it from her local computer. No response. I leave a constant ping running. So let's say 1.7 space dash T. Constant ping running to the printer. I disable the VPN client or I disconnect, the ping start replying. I connect back to the VPN client, ping stop.
And this printer is located where?
It's in her office. So she's like on 1.103, printers 1.7.
So I imagine that the tunnel is getting access to any local resources.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
But I can ping other things.
Ah.
And I can access this. I can just minimize that and I can still access all the server shares
Okay.
and everything else. I thought that's strange. So connect back to the terminal server. Now remember, my virtual adapter is 2 dot something. Go to the server, do an IP config 1.5
On a virtual server.
on their terminal server. So now what's happening when I'm trying to print from the terminal server, the printer does map over to 1.7, the printer maps, or it sees my printer, or sees her printer, but it's trying to send it to 1.7, but 1.7 on their
On
network,
their
not
network.
her network. So I called their support and I said, look, I know what's going on. They assumed it was something, I forgot what she said, but I asked her, did anything change? The IT person, no, nothing changed over here. I said, well, nothing changed over here either. And then later on in the conversation, she goes, well, we did change a server last week. I said, wait, the server she's connecting to? Yes. Oh, okay. Well, it's a minor change. I'm connecting to a different server, but okay. Now here's the workaround. I said, can we do a site-to-site VPN? Can we connect in the router? That way, well, and that's not going to work either. Well, okay, here's my plan. One-to-one site-to-site VPN, and I was going to do a one-to-one NAT. So what that means is I can tell their network that my network is something else. So I can tell them
Hey, Matt's freezing. No.
if they're trying to ping the printer from their side, let's say, they would ping 192.168.33.7 and they would get a reply. But it's actually the router then turns 33.7 to 1.7. So it's a way to have the same both networks on the same IP address on the IP scheme, and the router's just changing it to appear as a different network. She didn't want to do that. She said, "I don't know how to do that." I said, "Okay. Is there anybody there who knows how to program your router?" No, she said. Okay. So we couldn't do that. Uh, so the workaround was they have a network printer that also has a USB attachment on it. Brought that in her office, connected with USB. Printing works fine now. She said, "We're going to make some changes on our end, and we'll get back to you because I think we can fix it on our end." I said, "Okay, that's fine." You know what? I do not plan on hearing back from them.
Hmm. Interesting.
They ordered a second printer, identical to that one, that we're going to put back on the network. She's going to leave this in her office with a USB attachment. That's a workaround. They've got to buy another printer for this workaround.
And only if they were to create that one for one NAT, and then you would be in business.
Yep. But yeah, if they want a second printer, that's fine. I don't want to buy a second printer just for this, but they want a second printer. She says, "Oh, I've been wanting one in my office anyway." So, okay. And I told her if they do call you back, let me know because I want to see what they say to fix it.
Yeah. And again,
She,
for what Matt is describing here, because I know if you hear the word NAT and VPN, it might kind of throw you off. This client, she has a 192.168.1 dot something. So then she goes to a VPN, and the other side has that same subnet, 192.168.1 dot something. If the other side had a different subnet, then she would have no problem printing because it knows that the printer is on her subnet. But the fact that they share the same subnet, it says I don't have a printer as an IP address, and that's why Matt can't ping it.
right, it's looking. Their network is looking for 1.7, not the one that needs to go across the VPN.
Mm-hmm.
So now if it was, and that's sometimes a problem. Well, we won't get into that, but that's the basic of it.
Right.
But it is possible to set up VPNs with the same subnet on each end as long as you have your router that can support it. So, but you have to know how to configure it. I've dealt with clients who have. I've talked to an IT guy this past week. He's IT staff for a global company, and he did not understand because in this instance we had a one-to-one NAT because they told us we need to change this client's IP scheme to whatever. Well, they've got 80 computers and 4 or 5 servers and 30 network printers. I was not going to go and change the IP scheme of that network.
See, and I'm happy that you made that statement because one of my past gigs, the company wanted to create all these VPNs with between 30 and 40 sister companies, and they wanted me to change my whole entire IP scheme. I said, bro, I gotta change. I had like 12 different servers, and I had like 200 and some clients, and I got network printers all over the place. I'm like, that's massive. And he told me there's no other way to do it.
Well, this guy, he was trying to troubleshoot something for them, and he couldn't connect to the server. But when she did an IP config on her computer, she told him my IP is 192.168.8.5, let's say. So he was trying to get to 8.5 when if he would have done, I think, 239.5, it would have gone to her computer because he's across the VPN.
Right.
So when I talked to him, I said, well, just substitute 239 instead of 8. We're doing a one-to-one NAT. Oh, I've heard something about that, but I've never even seen it. I've never even known how to do it. His global IT, he doesn't know what a one-to-one NAT is. But it's not a common feature. It's easier for someone to tell you, just change your subnet.
Right.
Well, again, this could have been avoided if whoever set the network up originally. And that's why when you're setting up a new network and you can pick the IP scheme, pick something weird.
Obscure, yes.
Pick a number and go with it, 217,
Yeah.
192.1z.217. Whatever.
I always like the 172.18 dot whatever because most people don't even pick the 172. Again,
Right.
if you were to Google private subnets, you'll see the ranges that you can't use or can use. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's one class A, one class B, and one class C you're supposed to use.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. He spent an hour on the phone with her trying to connect to her computer, and he just didn't realize we had a one-to-one NAT. All right, so that's all for those. We got some emails.
All right. The first one is from Dante. He says, I have a potential client with 70 workstations, 3 servers, and 15 printers, along with a VoIP phone system to support, in which I will be submitting a proposal this Thursday. Using your bundled hours pricing model, email with 8 hours a minimal, how do you guesstimate how many hours the client would need for support, especially a client of this size? This is also a new client. I never associated with them before. I only had a meeting with them. If you were in my shoes,